I think as a parish we're very glad we took part in it.
I think it's great that we were given the money as a result of support from the villagers.
What a good idea, great, good fun. Will we be doing it again?
It's giving the local public the opportunity to say, well, this money can go to something in our community.
The process of participatory budgeting has been successful.
It gives people, the ordinary people in that community, an opportunity to say what they want.
This participatory budgeting exercise that we're involved in came about because the police authority and a number of other agencies were involved in a similar exercise at a parish called Eastfield near Scarborough. So a chap called Stuart Pudney at the police authority made a proposal to something called the Regional Improvement and Efficiency Programme, which approved the idea of funding a series of pilots with small parishes across North Yorkshire to see how it worked at that level. Participatory budgeting is any arrangement really which allows the community to participate in making a decision about the budget of a local authority. Parishes are local authorities, but most of the work had been done in the past with much larger organisations, district, county, metropolitan authorities, where there was a lot more organisational capacity, usually a sizable budget. Doing it at a parish where it's all voluntary or mostly voluntary, the capacity for administration is much smaller and the amount of money involved is much smaller. Looked like a bit of a challenge, but worth exploring.
The parish clerk had actually received an invitation to attend a meeting in Thirsk where Rural Action Yorkshire were going to explain the process of participatory budgeting and a way that additional funds could be awarded to the village.
Thanks for coming, everybody. I want to go through, as it says here, the model project plan, which is something which we can each then adapt to our own particular purposes or take straight as it is, depending on what you think of it. We have this process which is to invite the community to propose ideas on how the money that's being put together should be spent, and those ideas are then voted on by the community, and the outcome of that process determines how the money should be used. What I was asking parish councils to do was to run a participatory budgeting exercise so that we could see how they organised themselves and what sort of response it produced. In order to encourage them to do that, we offered them £2,000 as a sort of community chest or pot that would be the subject of the exercise itself. In the model that's generally been used to date, the task group is the group which manages the project hands-on, and it typically comprises a couple of 3 parish councillors and then a couple of 3 or more, if there's enough enthusiasm, people from the community who aren't on the parish council. One of the purposes of all of this, of course, is to get as many people involved as possible. So we asked them to set up an arrangement which would advertise the opportunity, collect bids, and then vet them, but only in respect of their practicality. Had they been properly thought out, and was the money they were asking for appropriate for the project they were going to do? And B, that it was something which the parish could legally support. As to whether or not they thought it was a nice idea, wasn't to enter into it. That was the issue which would be decided upon by the community.
My main concern, based on what you've just been saying, is that in actual fact we haven't had a proposal from outside the parish council. If we went ahead with this and we said, right, we're going to do this, we're going to get that, and nothing happens, you know. And I'm wondering how we actually overcome apathy. I mean, you must have come across it, or you must have, you know, how do we handle that? How do we sort of get people off their backsides?
My answer to that was, well, if you take this on, really you do need to commit yourself to getting a good turnout, broadcasting the idea as far as possible. But in the experience of this in other places, it's proved that that hasn't really been a risk that's ever been realised.
After that meeting, we came away and we thought, well, we've actually got nothing to lose. It's no sort of financial input from the village initially, So let's see how it goes, let's see how people react, let's go with it. Being in the heart of Yorkshire, of course, something for nothing always sounds really good, doesn't it?
We had 5 parish councils represented at Thirsk, but we have accomplished it in Wimbledon, Gillingwest and Killinghall.
From the parish council we sent out a letter explaining what participatory budget is and what it could do for the village, and we wanted to support it. That went out initially from the parish council and inviting all residents to a specially set up meeting. We had a really good response actually. I can't remember the number that turned up, but I think it was 50% probably turned up, something like that. So it was quite a good response, sort of what we expected and probably a little bit more. From the initial meeting in the village hall, we then formed this little subcommittee for town meeting. We decided how we were going to present that to the village. We decided against big posters, so we did a door-to-door drop so that everybody knew it was happening.
Our bid was for redecoration of the village hall. It was in quite a poor state of repair. It just needed internal decoration throughout. And that was so that we could market it more easily and make it more appealing for people to come and hire the village hall, which has a knock-on effect that we could hopefully increase our funds. I think the fact that we put in a bid for the total amount, for us it was an all or nothing thing. Yes, it was a risk because it might have put people off, and also we wondered whether it would be fair to the other participants who were also bidding for money.
From those returns that we received, there was one that took us all by surprise because it was about the green energy that we'd never even thought about. We did have to do some checking to see that it fit within the criteria, because it was one guy, one company, but what he was suggesting, he was doing it for the village, for the recreation club.
To get the people in Gilling aware of the process of participatory budgeting, we prepared a new sheet that actually explained what the process was, and that went up onto the village notice board. It went in the post office, it went into the pubs.
Would it be okay for us to put these posters about the participatory budgeting?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Where's the best place?
We spoke to, shall we say, the leaders of the different events that we thought might have a need of some additional funding. People came forward initially with that, yes, we want to be involved. What was a bit more difficult was actually getting them to quantify what their project would be, because we were looking for things like money, specification, timing, and we wanted them to come to a public event and actually explain what their needs were.
When I first heard about participating in budgeting, it was rather an unknown phenomenon to me. I'd never heard it before. It was Helen, our local shop owner and postmistress. She said, "Oh, Barbara," she said, "there's some money for some community project. How about the bowls? Are they interested?" And I thought, "Oh, don't believe it's rather too good to be true." And anyway, she said, "Well, got to get an application form." I thought, "Oh, not another application form to fill in." And it was quite simple, quite straightforward.
The bowling green, to a certain extent, I was surprised about, because I'd always seen it there and I've never played. What was good about the bowling green opportunity was to actually hopefully open it up to other people in the village who maybe, like me, didn't know who the major players on the bowling green were and what they had to do to get a game.
It did happen that in one of our parishes a scheme came forward for a pop concert kind of thing, a music festival for a weekend in the summer. And the parish council involved saw this as going down well with some members of the community possibly, but potentially causing a nuisance, and were anxious about it and quizzed me a bit about whether or not it was one that really fell into the scheme and could it be put forward and so on. And I had to explain that the terms of the arrangement were that since it met the bill in terms of being practical and something which the parish council could fund, should go forward for public decision making.